Hello, welcome to another video with me, Dante Starshine. Thanks for tuning into the channel today. So, I want to talk about a couple different things that are seeming relevant at this time. And first of all is Ascension symptoms. And this has been a term that's been around in the spiritual community for a really long time. And I was in my phase of Ascension symptoms as well. So what I want to say is that Ascension symptoms are real, yet the way that people talk about Ascension symptoms, just as if because there's this big energetic portal, they're going to go through this and detox and pain and confusion, headaches, sickness. So it can be a way for people to just be like, oh, the energies right now are really strong, so I have to surrender, and it'll pass once the energies come back to being normal. Though the thing is that the energy is only going to increase, and we're going to move deeper into this age of light, this photon belt of energetic influence, and experience stronger, more potent, and sometimes more challenging phenomena. So we have to be aware that what the real cause of Ascension symptoms is are the belief systems and the emotions that are beneath our patterns and behaviors. And when the energies get high, it forces those things to manifest into something. So Ascension symptoms, when they occur, when they manifest, are invitations for us to look at what belief systems may be the cause of this illness I'm facing, may be the cause of these relationship issues, may be the cause of this or that or the other thing. Because so often the idea that I'm seeing around Ascension symptoms is just wait till this wave is over, just wait until the full moon or the new moon is over, and then it's going to get softer again. Though that's only a sort of way to delay doing your inner work. You can get to a point where the energies may be strong and there's waves of realization and movement within you, but you don't have these negative Ascension symptoms. You only feel the energy in a positive way, in a transformative way. So I just want to make that clear, because I see a lot of people kind of throwing their power away to their Ascension symptoms. The second thing I want to talk about, I'm just going to check if I'm actually recording. Oh, I totally am. I had to do that. Sorry, I'm using the front camera because I think it's better, so I don't see what's going on. It's interesting. Anyway, the other thing is relating to a lot of these conspiracies and the psyops that are using the conspiracies. And, first of all, we want to take a look. Say I'm speaking this to somebody who is believing in the QAnon narrative, first of all, because we don't want to push somebody deeper into the cult of it. Now, a cult mentality works on some sort of mechanism where the cult or the person brainwashed by it, and in this case we can see Q as the same as a cult, will go out and try to recruit, though they will recruit those who don't support what they are saying and don't support the cult and see it as such, and then they will experience rejection, which can sometimes be a sort of a violent or aggressive rejection, and that actually pushes them deeper into the cult. It reinforces the notion shared in the cult that we, as the Christians or the Q supporters or the Mormons or the, you name it, are the right ones, we're in the right, and what we've learned that the outsiders are bad, is right, because I see the strong rejection coming from the outsiders. And even I have been really guilty of, at sometimes, being too pushy or aggressive in my dance with Q supporters, because I've come to see that as pushing them deeper into the experience of rejection and then believing the narrative more. So that's why I want to just start off with this, okay, from the perspective that you are believing that. Now, you've just heard what I said about the idea of cults, so that may turn you off already, that I'm saying it's a cult, but when we look at the history of conspiracy theory, something that is very key in all of conspiracy theory is that the state is going to come to places where there are big protests and kidnap, disappear, or shut down the protest, shut down the uprising of the people. And so what's very ironic and telling about the Q movement is that that's happening underneath the Trump administration. In Portland, people are being disappeared, and the feds came, and there was talk of it happening in other places as well, in Chicago, for example. Though, while it's calmed down, that's a key example as to what is actually happening right now is very much in alignment with what classical conspiracy theory said would happen. But now the sort of very malleable and easy to fall into these, narrow thinking traps has brought to people is now, the conspiracy is that the person who is somehow leading the dictatorship, essentially, is a good guy, is a hero. So when you approach Q people, you really need to approach gently and make it very real. In the last channeling session, we went into a lot of detail as to, the sorts of traps in thinking, the ego traps, the narcissistic, I'm better, I am the chosen one kind of a mindset that would bring somebody into something like Q, and how to sort of understand what reality they're living in and how to choose self-responsibility. So you can check out that video on my YouTube channel. It's the latest channeling long video, and that gives us an insight into their world. And then we just want to really show them, what actual conspiracy theory has been saying for so long is that there is going to be takeovers and people disappeared and this or that happening in the streets, and this is happening now with Trump. So why would you believe that he is some sort of a hero? Anyway, now a lot of people who are very aware that what is going on out there is not alright, and we are not being shown everything, are in a way sympathetic to Q and unsure about it, because we can see the reality of child sex trafficking. Though, where's the line here? What we know is that child sex trafficking and Epstein and Pizzagate and all of these things are being weaponized, and it is not too far-fetched to suppose that there are forces that are working with Q and working with Trump that put out different, sorts of pizza surprises and, little clues or weird products, or Wayfair, things like this that point to the reality that they are trying to get people to believe in. This isn't that far-fetched. because we know in the past, in different protests and movements and stuff, there were people paid to incite violence, not by some George Soros kind of a fellow, but by the FBI. And so those who want to stay in control will do everything to make it look as if there's evidence for what they're doing. So the reality of child sex trafficking is real, but it's honestly a very domestic issue. It's, you know, not always these big government officials, but people who kidnap domestically and who smuggle humans in developing nations. And while this is real, we need to look at the bigger picture here, because there's very little evidence that the president has in any way been working to stop this, when actually he's put many policies into place that make it harder to fight sex traffickers. So I'm going to put a list of many things in the comments, different resources you can take a look into to see for yourself, though I would very much encourage people to not sympathize with the Q or these people, to be compassionate and understand that they themselves are in quite a fear-based and often very narcissistic place to begin with. That's what allows them to get sucked into that rabbit hole, and it is a very delicate thing to extricate them from it. But when you give them any, sort of a doubt, like, oh, well, this part of it could be right, or this part of it could be right, then you kind of help them stay stuck rather than help them liberate themselves from it. So we want to be the sort of balanced in our emotional body, opposite to how over emotional and reactive they are, and not let the emotional charge of something like child sex trafficking get us to start to believe in this or that or the other thing. The reality is that, we are in a world where wealthy people control everything, and none of them are having the best interest of everyone. But some of them are going to be less harmful and less destructive than others. And while we want to use our power to wake people up out of the whole conspiracy of this capitalistic reality, we also have to choose to bring people to realize that the lesser of two evils isn't really an evil. It is what allows us to retain the freedoms that we need to have in order to protest, in order to make real change. Because if people are being disappeared off the streets right now, then that's a very big indicator that if the current president stays in power, we're going to lose our ability to protest and demand the change that we really need. So that's my take on that, and I hope you like this video, and if you don't, that's great too. But it's something quite alarming and quite important, and while I fully believe the journey is within our own self and fully becoming empowered and becoming centered in our own light, I know that as things get crazier on the planet, we also have to see what sort of an impact we can have on the collective, because the road that things take means a lot for what sort of freedom we're going to retain in the future, and whether or not we're really going to be able to create this ascended reality, not just in our personal bubbles and in our spiritual communities, but for everyone. So, the channeled beings in many senses have been talking for a long time about a great divide, and I really see the divide between, the love-based reality and the fear-based reality as not so black and white. People in the fear-based reality may believe that they're in the love-based reality, but be unconscious of the fact that they're motivated by a lot of fear. It's not this sort of people who choose spirituality and awakening are the ones on the love-based reality, and people who don't believe in spirituality choose the fear-based reality, which is in a way almost a very religious or Christian way of looking at it. It's more so the love is beyond the concept of what you believe in terms of this spirit or that or channeling at all. It's more in terms of, are we allowing love to motivate us, and are we truly coming from the heart, or are we coming from fear, and are we allowing the fear and our over emotionally charged headspace to get us to believe or this and that thing that we really don't have evidence for if we learn to look from a very objective place. And we shouldn't totally discount every source of information just because it is mainstream media. That is part of how these conspiracy theory things create, echo chambers, because once people get this thing in their head that mainstream media isn't to be trusted at all, then it becomes kind of an issue. Mainstream media is oriented to get people to think in a certain way, but every source of mainstream media has a slightly different agenda. So we want to take in all of the sources. We don't want to just pigeonhole ourselves into one source. So read every argument and its opposite. Read every source of information and its opposite, so that you make sure that you're not creating an echo chamber for yourself, and that you really understand what people on the other side are saying, so that we can truly be holistic. So that's what I have to say about this. And there's a lot of people that are, I won't even go any further. I think that's complete. Much love.